Okay, I'm back. Working on the 62 Biscayne again. And I know some of you this is going to be shocking, but I'm going to spring into action. I'm sorry. Alright, so you might have figured from my intro that I'm doing maybe some springs, maybe some shock absorbers, and you'd be right. Front and rear, I'm just replacing them because these are old, I think Monroe's on the front, I don't know what's on the rear, and, for shock absorbers. And springs, I don't know what they are. I'm hoping they're sagging. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to replace them just in case. And I'm also going to put a front sway bar or anti-sway bar, however you want to look at it. And replace the rear suspension control arm suspension bushings. As I already did in the front, which was before I started doing this YouTube stuff. So that's where we're at. And I cut out a lot of stuff that really, if you do this, you don't need to see it. Hey, I pulled the tire off. And I know I put a video last year, I think, where I put the snow tires on. I was bored. I needed something to do. So I'm in the process of trying to get the lower ball joint to come free from the control arm, and then I can slowly lower that lower control arm, get the spring out, and put it all back together. So I'm not showing much of this. I'll show more of the rear suspension because I'm going to take the whole rear end axle assembly out of the car because I'm doing other stuff to it. I'm going to put different calipers on the rear, and I'm going to replace a couple of brake lines. I did them when I put the disc brakes on, and I'm not real happy with the way they turn out, so I'm going to take it all apart. I'd take it off the car and do it right instead of try to weld and stuff underneath the car right next to the gas tank. Probably not a good thing. So anyway, this is where I'm at right now. I'm working on getting the spring out. I've already taken the shock out. And I'm just trying to get that bulge right. Oh, backlighting. Trying to get that bulge right there. Just gotta whack it a couple of times and it'll come out. Lower the lower control arm and take it out and wait for the new ones to come. Hopefully they'll be delivered today. Once I get to that point, I'll come back. Alright. Just as the bird squawks. I just got the spring out. And there's not a big difference between the two. I was kind of surprised, shocked, whatever. So, maybe I'm doing this for nothing. Maybe it is worn out and it's just that static height, it's fine, or it looks fine. Maybe with weight, it squishes too much. Or I'm doing this for nothing. Carry on. So I'm not going to show everything to put it back together. This is kind of a useless video, I guess. But right now I don't have a tripod. Well, I should say my other camera's battery is gone and I don't want to wait for it to charge. I should say empty, not gone. And I just don't want to wait till it charges. So yeah, I can't really figure out how to do this with holding the camera. maybe once I get it set in there and I start cranking the control arm back up, I'll come back on. We'll see. All right, so I do have it back together. It's the next day. It took me a while. These springs appear to, or feel to be a little stronger than the other ones. And again, it could just because they're worn out. They're old, they're saggy to a point. And these were a relative fight to get in. So this side's back together. Just want to show you that it's all back together. I do have to put the shock back in it, but that's I'll say a no-brainer, I guess. But that's it. So next time you'll hear from me will be when I'm working on the rears. And I just got all the parts today. So, woohoo! Okay, so I got the front done. Springs and shocks are done, replaced, went for a ride. And the one issue that I was having previous to doing this is gone. So it did something. And I will tell you one thing, that when I was comparing the lengths or the heights of the coils, the springs, and they were the same as the new ones that I was putting in, which are stock. They were a bear to get in. So it definitely did something. I don't know that it's any higher on the front. So I didn't measure it. Okay. So I'm just looking at it, and even taking a video like this or whatever, is it different? I think it looks a little higher, and that's fine. I like lowered vehicles, not in the snow. But anyway, those coils were definitely stronger because I had one hell of a time getting it back together. It's all good. Took it for a ride. Beautiful. Time to start on the back. So I'm doing basically the same thing in the front. I'm sorry, same thing in the back as I did in the front. Except that I'm going to take the whole rear axle out. Because I want to replace one of the steel lines on the back for the brakes. So I'm going to get that out, and once I get it out, then I will get you back in. I'll probably just crawl under there real quick and show you what's involved if you're not familiar. But if you have one of these from 58 to 64, you're probably pretty familiar. It's odd. All right, so I'm underneath it now. And okay, so I forgot to say, in addition to the coil springs and the shock absorbers, you can see these are older, not original, but they are older shocks, and the springs look pretty similar to the ones in the front. So I could just drop the rear end a little bit and get the shocks out, get the springs out, put the new ones in, bing, bang, boom, done. But I want to also replace all the bushings for the rear end. The upper control arm, yes, one upper control arm, and then the two on the outside here. I'm replacing the bushings, and I'm hoping I'm showing that because I can't see where I'm doing. So there's bushings in here that get pressed out. I don't know if I pointed to that. Under here, you can see the bushings kind of rotted out. I'm not going to say it's original, but it needs to be replaced. You can see that I replaced this, what do they call that bar? Track bar? Something like that. I've already replaced that. Hell, I've replaced everything under the damn car. So the weird thing, you see that loop right there? I'm going to get rid of that. The weird thing on these is normally in the rear end of a car, when you have a rear wheel drive with a differential, you have the two control arms on the bottom, right here, and right here, okay? That's what the shock kind of attaches to. And you'd normally have two on the upper. Well, where's this one? It's only got one. And that's a 58 to 64 full-size thing. I had a 64 Impala. I know it only had 3, but I can't tell you for sure that none of them had the one over on this side. See where that attaches to the car? There's a place for it. I can put one in for a higher horsepower vehicle, for maybe a 409 Impala SS or something. I don't know. Although you can get 409 in Biscayne at the time. I don't know that they ever came with it from the factory. Also notice no sway bar. I don't know if any of them ever came with the sway bar front or rear. I just got a kit for the front, which will be going on in time. But yeah, I don't know if it ever came with it. But anyway, let's get back to this. So what I have to do is just remove the drive shaft U-joint, the brake, the brake line that comes to the rear end axle housing, and then the emergency brake cables, and this will be out. So once I get this thing rolled out, or if I have any problems with bushings or whatever, bushing bolts I should say, otherwise the next time, in like 2 seconds after I stop, you'll see the rear end. Okay, so I got the rear end out of the car, and it took a little longer than I expected. It's the next day, and I got a late start today, so it's out, and this is it for the day. I'm gonna rest up and get to starting on bushings and brake lines and calipers and springs and shocks. So it's a little empty now. And those are the old shocks, which I think you've already seen. So wait till tomorrow. Okay, I'm in here with the upper control arm for the rear, and I pressed the first one out, as you can see. And I made a couple of tools that I should have made in the past, but I just always fought through it. So when you push the bushing out, not prepared here. When you push the bushing out, it's got this little lip, as you can maybe see. It's got this lip, okay, that presses against the control arm. So I made a little tool to make it easier to press out. It's actually just an exhaust pipe that I had laying around. I just cut it to however long. I believe it's 2.5 inches. Doesn't matter. Yours will probably be different. And I don't know, maybe the lower control arms will be different too. I don't know. But this just happens to fit in there. This kind of rough, so in here, it fits right in there. Oops. Fits right in here. So that allows, when I'm pressing with the press, it allows it room to push through. So I've done this a few times and I've never made anything like that. Kind of dumb because it's so easy. And then, so as you can see, the control arm is not solid. So these two pieces, or ends, or whatever you want to call it, they tend to, when you're pressing it, they tend to bend together. Not a good thing when you're trying to get the bushing out. So I took another piece of exhaust pipe, cut it a little bit more than half, and I just put that in there to support the two edges. And once I got this made up, the bushing pushed out in less than a minute. So having said that, I'm going to try and push this other one out, and it's going to fight me, and it's going to take an hour. It's just the way it is, you know. So this piece right here, is it in? This piece, you can see the bushing, the flange of the bushing. This thing fits right around it. I don't know if the camera's showing in there or not. Pretty close. This is just a deep socket that I have. You can use a short one, long one, whatever, but you just want it to be the same diameter as, oops, as the outside diameter of the bushing. And yeah, it's going to hit rubber right now, but it will push through that and hit the metal. I don't know what they call it, but it's just like the outside part of the bushing. So let's get this a little bit more straightened up and watch this thing make a fool of me. I'm not going to lie to you, it's a little scary doing this, but it's all good. And like I said, I've done this plenty of times. And you don't need a press like this. You can use, well, you'd have to have a pretty big vise, but you can use a vise and you can use a hammer and whack it out. Or you can go to one of the parts places, like Advance or O'Reilly's or whoever, and rent the tool, and you probably, you know, it doesn't cost you anything as long as you bring it back, and you know, it works fine as long as you get one of them that's not broken. I've had them broken before. Anyway, so I have this press, I'm going to use it. So here we go. I did spray penetrating lube on here too, so that will make a difference sometimes. Remember that scary part I was talking about? So as you can see, this right here is in between these two parts of it. It is preventing this from collapsing together. So I'm going to go a little bit further and then check to see how it's working. And it's pretty hard, so I'm not real comfortable with it. So I'm going to loosen it back up. And check to see what it's done. Okay, as you can see, maybe, this lip has pushed away from the control arm. So it's done its job. Now it's just got to go the rest of the way. So, like I said, it's not going to be as quick as the first one was, but it'll go. Hopefully. There, I think it's going this time. There it goes. That might be out. Yep, it's out. So it's just that easy. Now I'm going to do the other four by myself. Not well, the other four bushings. Get them done, and I'm going to clean these up. Maybe paint them, maybe not. But when I'm back to reassembly, you'll know it. Alright, so I've got everything cleaned up, all the bushings out obviously, cleaned up, painted. Don't know what it's going to do, but they're painted. Now I just have to, if this won't fall, I have to push the, I think they're called bushing sleeves, the old bushing sleeves, where the old bushings were actually inside the rubber. Rubber was in here. I have to push these in because I have to reuse these, and then I put the new bushing material in here. So I have to push all these back into the control arms, and I'll show you the first one. Alright, here we go. Sorry the light's not real good. Let me see if I can turn the light on here. I don't know what that's going to do, but so I've got my handy dandy tool with my other piece, so they don't squish together again. Oops. One light. Alright, one installed. Do one more. The instructions do say to put lube on this outside material. I haven't. I've never done it. I will put lube on the inside when I push the bushings in, but right now I'm not putting any lube. Grease, lube. You actually want to grease, not like a WD-40 or WD-40 is really not that good of stuff. But anyway. Alright, two bushing sleeves installed. I got 4 more to do. I'm not going to bore you. I'll be back when I'm putting the bushings in. Alright, putting the bushings in. I've had a lot of trouble with one of the bushings sleeves, but the other 5 went in really easy. And then I looked at the bushings and I realized that 2 of them had the sleeves. So I have to push out these 2 ends and put these in. Doesn't say anything like that in the instructions, but you know, whatever. The instructions were very generic. So anyway, I'll install one of the new bushings, and just to kind of show you, how kind of easy it is. So I can keep everything in shot. So I just lube this sucker up. And lube this side up just so it can slide in over the two bumps, I guess. It goes in really easy. Just use a hammer, rubber mallet. And I just kind of do this so that maybe they won't squeak. Like I'll be able to hear it over the exhaust. Alright. It does not. So I just put it in, and you can see the sleeve is in there. Yep. Obviously, it'd be easier to do with two hands, but wrong way. But I will do it with two hands. But then you just whack it in. Okay, and it sticks out the other side. And I lube this sucker up, put it on there. And it says you can see the beveled edge. That goes like this. So that when you're pushing it in between the two parts on the frame, the bracket on the frame, I guess, or the rear end, it makes it easier to slip on, I guess. I'm just inferring that, I don't know. And that's it. I mean, that's all there is to putting these in. Obviously, the two that I have to press out and press back in, you've already seen that process. One's done. Alright, everything is done on the rear end, the axle, rear axle. I put new calipers on it on both sides, and the reason I did that is because I didn't use the emergency brake, and the calipers that it came with, the brake calipers it came with, were off of old late 70s Cadillac Seville, I think, and they had emergency brake thing for them, and my emergency brake does not work for some reason. Doesn't matter. I never use it anyway. So there's control arm, spring, and shock. The upper control arm and the other side control arm, spring, and shock. I know the lighting is horrible. So obviously I painted it. I don't want to say obviously, but I painted it. I guess if you compare to what it looked like before, you might be able to tell. I don't know. So, one thing, that was good, huh? If you remember the brake lines, wow. They were like, there's a curl right there, a loop I should say, and I think there's a loop right here that's been removed, and the tab that supports the flexible brake line to the solid brake line, I moved a couple inches outwards. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'll come back and probably set up the tripod and maybe start putting this thing back together. We'll see. So I got that. I'll call it an attachment device. Cleaned up. It's ready to install. I'm not sure how this is going to go because the rear end seems to be moving around pretty easily, but I am going to move up the side of the bushing again. I don't know if it's in focus. And then I'm going to lube this shaft up, which is what goes through here and holds it all together. And for right now, I'm not going to worry about the shock part of it. Alright, here goes. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I might be stopping that camera for a little bit. Yep, that's not going to be fun. I really don't want to hammer it. Any suggestions? If I turned it upside down, I could push on it. Would that work? Maybe. Well, let's give it a shot. I discovered that I cannot just tip the rear end over, as the calipers are going to hit the jack stands, and so I had to hammer it in. It's almost there, not quite. I'm hoping to get this to line up by using the proper tool. And it appears it's somewhat working. Down. Might be able to hammer it in. Just, I don't remember which way this thing goes in. No. It has to go in this way. Alright. Mind if I talk to myself? Alright, that was easy. Alright, one down, well, two down, call the upper control arm done. I'm going to get the other side done, spray a little paint on the freshly cleaned surface here, and that's ready to pop in. Next thing you'll see is probably me going underneath the car and cleaning it up under there a little bit so that these ends slide in pretty good. So we'll see you in about 1 second. Okay, I'm back, and it's been a minute. I had a really rough time getting everything back together and lined up. I don't know if it's because the other stuff was so shot, the rubber bushings were shot, and these are firmer and new. Springs stronger. But I've had this rear end out and put it back in with no problems. But this time fought me a good, probably close to 2 weeks. So I didn't really even think about recording all of it. And I would have had to bleep a lot of stuff out. Nah, not really. Yeah, so I've got everything. I just got everything back together. And so now I've got the weight, as you can see by the jack stands, I think. Yeah, as you can see by the jack stands, the weight is on the rear end. The jack stands that you see in the middle, if they're touching, they're barely touching, and I don't actually think they're touching. So all the weight is basically on the rear end. I just didn't want to try and squeeze under here with the wheels on. So right now I'm going to go and snug everything up. And I know this video is kind of taking a turn, kind of for the worst. I was hoping to kind of show everything that I was doing, but it didn't work out. So we're back to tightening everything up. I did have to wait like 4 or 5 days to get new bolts. So all of the control arm bushing bolts are new, and that took a lot longer than I thought. Also, found my socket. They're grade A bolts, which is basically the strongest normal bolt that you can get. They have grade 9s, I think. I mean, I know they have grade 9s, but it might be like a 9 something. And it's got ARP bolts, ARP band bolts. I believe that they are stronger yet. But this is what I got. So I'm not gonna be able to do that. So I don't have torque specs. Basically, I'm going to tighten them up. When it stops turning, I'm done. Good. Grade 8 bolts should take, I don't know, 130 foot-pounds of torque, something like that. I don't know, these are 5/8 fine thread, so they take a lot of, they can take a lot of pressure, a lot of twist, a lot of torque. I might need an extension for this one. You know, I'm not really sure why I had such a problem, but I did. And so that's why it took me a long time. And, you know, fortunately, it's not the car I drive every day. Well, I don't really drive anywhere every day. So when I would get frustrated, I could just say screw it and go inside for a bit. And I did that a lot. So this is probably a different size. No, sorry. They seem to be really stingy online about these torque values on these bolts. They want you to buy the manual, which, you know, I can understand that. But I could find all the other torque specs. Just, they didn't want to give you these for some reason. You know, I'm cheap, I admit it. Should I get a manual for this car? I don't know, I've had it for what, 7, 8 years? Well, actually, it's over 8 years. I think I got it in 16. I haven't needed the manual yet. Well, other than torque specs. So these two lower ones, I will probably have to come back to. I can't get enough torque on it with what I have right now, and I'm not sure I can fit a, sorry, I'm not sure that I can fit a socket on there. Seems like when I was trying to loosen them, the socket didn't fit. So I'm going to come back to that. Sorry about the noise. I'm just happy to have it back together. Unfortunately, one of the issues that I had while putting it back together, I was putting this shock absorber on where my hand's at, and I smashed the brake line. So I had to get a new brake line. It's sitting on top of the trunk. I will do that afterwards. I actually have to take, I think that's part of it. I actually have to take this bracket, I don't know if you can see it from there, but I have to take this bracket off, re-weld it a little bit higher on the axle housing, and so I won't be driving it today, but maybe tomorrow. I have to say, I have all the doors closed on the garage, not because of the sun causing like a backlit situation. Sometimes I do it for that, but because I'm a professional. But everybody's mowing or doing the leaf blowing thing, and it's really loud, so not as loud as this is going to be, so hang on. Alright, now I've got one more. Not sure how I'm going to get to it. It's been so long since I've driven this. Okay, are you right there? No, wrong. Hopefully you're not looking up my shirt, but so don't look. Okay, I believe I have 2 more bolts to tighten, and then the lower shocks. The upper shock mounts are tight. So now I'm tightening the bushing on the, what do you call it? I don't know what you call it. Oh crap. But it's a bar that holds the rear end in place basically as in relation to the frame. What is it called? I don't know. But anyway, I'm tightening that right now. And I gotta do that one. I think that's the normal size. I'm gonna block the camera again, I think. So the shocks I won't use the impact on. I'm just more comfortable doing it by hand so I can watch the bushing. So you kind of want the bushing in here to expand. This bushing doesn't look right. Take this off real quick. It's tight. So I just like to see the crushing of the bushing for the shocks. I do it on the front and rear also. Wherever there's a bushing, you just like to see a slate. I've never used this kind of shock before, but well, I guess that's all it's going to give. So seems to me that this should be a little bit bigger. So I might come back and put a larger washer here so that if this lower shock mount right here wants to wander back a little bit, it can be held in. I'm not comfortable with that, but I can do that off camera. Almost time to put the winter tires on, but I'll use the same tires, wheels that I've been running, just to keep everything consistent. So everything's snugged up, and theoretically I can drop it down and take it for a ride. But like I said, I still need to put this brake line in. I'm going to do that right now, but not on camera because well, because. So I'm going to come back once that's all together. I'll show you everything. I'll take it by hand and show you everything that I've done. I'll probably touch up the rear end because after just painting it, it's all scratched up again. Does it matter? No. But, you know, I painted it, and I guess I'll paint it again. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I will come back once I have that welded in and the line run. I have to bend, well, not bend it, but I have to cut it to length and then put the fitting on and attach it. Should be good. I'll see you in a bit. Alright, I'm back. I've actually been out for about a week due to an illness. And I still got a head cold, so I probably sound like crap. So I apologize in advance for that. But I'm just going to make this a very quick end of video. And I'm just glad to be done with it. So I got all the lines bent up finally. You can see this one right here. It's not that copper nickel or whatever those new fancy schmancy lines are that you can bend by hand easy. I got these because it seemed like the copper ones were rusting on me, or not rusting, but corroding on me, and well, turning green like the Statue of Liberty. Anyway, and that's zooming back and forth, but you can see all the brake lines are done. All of the nuts and bolts are tight. I topped off the differential fluid. I still want to, if I feel like it, do a little touch up on the rear end, but I might now wait until spring to do that. But yeah, so it's all done. And not sure if I'm gonna do a ride with it and tell you, because I don't think it's going to be a huge handling difference. And I know that might sound silly, but the next thing that I've got lined up for it will make the biggest difference, and then I'll do a before and after type drive. Of course, it's going to be now before instead of before I changed all this crap out. But anyway, that's the end of this, and I'm sorry for sounding so crappy, and I don't know when the next one's going to be. I'm just ready for this to be done. So thank you for watching. Yeah, I don't have the center caps on because I might put my winter tires on, winter wheels and tires on. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. But I really like comments. That's kind of, subscribers, that's nice, but I ain't making no money from this, so that part doesn't really matter. If you want to be subscribed, I guess you get notification earlier, or you get notification. And that's great, and I appreciate it, I guess. But comments and questions and stuff like that, that's where I really like that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.